Jake Paul has called out Anthony Joshua. He said, although AJ's his friend, AJ has got a glass jaw, can't take a punch, and he threatened to knock him out. Now, Jake Paul is a social media influencer, a YouTuber who has got a little bit of boxing ability, but could this guy even win any type of major amateur title? I seriously doubt it. Bear in mind, he lost to Tommy Fury a few fights back. That's the level Jake Paul's at. He might have improved a little bit since then, but I don't think it's been a complete overhaul of his boxing style and boxing ability. I think far too many people were firstly impressed by the fact he was able to beat Mike Tyson. And then there's this absurd notion out there that Mike Tyson threw the fight. No, he didn't throw the fight. Mike Tyson is damn near 60 years of age. And anyone who took the time to actually watch the behind the scenes shoulder programming for the Mike Tyson-Jake Paul fight would have seen that Tyson looked absolutely terrible in training. And he also looked terrible in the ring during the public workout. That was streamed to Jake Paul's YouTube channel. Subsequently, it was taken down. I'm not sure why. But yeah, they streamed the public workout for not just that fight, but the card. And Tyson looked awful on the pads with his, I believe, a Brazilian coach. Absolutely terrible. He couldn't move his legs. The trainer literally had to go into the corner and stand still in order for Mike Tyson to be able to get his punches off on the pads. And in between every combination, Tyson took like 10, 15, 20, 30 seconds to regain his energy before he could throw another combination. So anyone who'd been paying attention to that and the shoulder programming on Netflix ahead of the Tyson-Jake Paul fight would have known that Tyson was completely done. You see people on Instagram who upload these heavily edited videos of Mike Tyson. Some of them weren't even from the run-up to the Jake Paul fight. They were actually from the run-up to the Roy Jones fight. That's how disingenuous and clickbaity some of these people were. The Roy Jones fight was several years ago. And they took these clips when Tyson's throwing punches. And of course, they removed the parts where Tyson isn't throwing punches when he's resting after every combination for 15, 20, 30 seconds. And because so many people out there are not very bright and they can't tell that it's been edited together to try and make Mike Tyson look good, they thought that Mike Tyson was still some type of beast. No, he's a 60-year-old man whose legs are completely gone, who, even since the Roy Jones fight, had been bunning and not living a healthy lifestyle. The guy's body was riddled with injuries. I mean, how people thought that Tyson threw the fight is just ridiculous. Of course he didn't throw the fight. The guy came out and he had about 10, 15 seconds of punching in him. And after that, he was just a sitting duck, basically. That's all it was. There was a lot of casuals out there. Oh, Tyson held back on this. No, he didn't hold back. He couldn't pull the trigger. Mike Tyson knew through his experience at a certain range, if he doesn't throw the punch in a split-second time window, then he's going to miss and he's going to get countered. That's why Tyson was hesitating to throw shots, because he knew that his timing was off. Jake Paul was pulling away at the right moment. He was in there with a young, athletic fighter. Now, obviously, the Mike Tyson at the back end of his real career when he fought Kevin McBride, even that version of Mike Tyson would have blasted Jake Paul out in a round or two. But Father Time is undefeated, as Dwyer likes to say. Yes, there comes a point when even a great fighter like Mike Tyson could get beaten by a YouTuber. And that's what we saw. We saw that moment where Tyson had deteriorated to that extent. And again, casuals wondering why Mike Tyson was biting his glove. That's something that he used to do years ago. He was biting his glove in the Kevin McBride fight. He was biting his glove in the Lennox Lewis fight out of frustration. Teddy Atlas on his podcast spoke about how Mike Tyson, even in the amateurs, sometimes used to bite his glove. It's something he did out of frustration and also sometimes to alleviate anxiety. And he was very frustrated against Jake Paul because he couldn't get his punches off. He's an old man. Anyway, I say all that to say that Jake Paul against Anthony Joshua would be an absolute farce. Jake Paul is not a world level cruiserweight. He's definitely not a world level heavyweight. He's not even a fringe world level heavyweight. Anthony Joshua would play with Jake Paul. Even this diminished, washed up, damaged version of Anthony Joshua that we have today, he would absolutely play with him. Now, you guys remember in the run-up to the Ngannou fight, there were so many people, not just MMA fans, but even boxing people that turned up in the comments of my pre-fight videos who were saying, oh, you've got this one wrong, Hatman. I'm telling you, Ngannou's going to do it. AJ's going to have trouble. And I was absolutely resolute all along. I said, this fight is a joke. Anthony Joshua will have no problem with Ngannou at all. It's going to be totally comfortable for him. The only reason that he had success against Tyson Fury is because Fury didn't train. And that's something I want to use it as an example because there were a lot of people making out as though Martin Bacolli's loss to Joseph Parker was indicative of how Bacolli's a hype job and basically acting like that's the best version of Martin Bacolli. Folks, people have training camps for a reason. If you could just roll off the couch, having not trained for 6 months and be at your best, then everyone would be doing that. The amount that you're going to be better after a training camp than you would be rolling off the couch after 6 months of, eating food and not exercising, the difference in your ability is absolutely enormous. Okay, it's like you're a totally different person after a proper camp if you've not been living life the right way. If you're a guy who's a perpetual athlete, like an Alexander Usyk, for example, you'd probably fare a lot better. You still wouldn't be anywhere near your best without a camp, but you'd fare a lot better. But anyway, I say all that to say that Tyson Fury was totally out of shape against Ngannou, wasn't prepared physically or mentally, and that performance flattered Ngannou massively. I knew it at the time. I was looking at Ngannou in the Fury fight, and his guard was an MMA guard. It was so wide open. You could literally drive a truck through it. I was like, Anthony Joshua is going to punch this guy to pieces. Look at his guard. It's just wide open for straight shots. Like, come on. And that's exactly what happened. And I'm even more adamant that Anthony Joshua, if a Jake Paul fight were to happen, would destroy Jake Paul. I mean, good God, man. This is a YouTuber who's not even a real heavyweight. Jake Paul couldn't even beat Francis Ngannou. I'm telling you. So the idea that he's going to beat Anthony Joshua is bizarre to me. Okay? Anthony Joshua will toy with the guy, beat him easily. Jake Paul is listed at 6'1". Anthony Joshua is 6'6". So AJ is a full 5 inches taller than Jake Paul. Longer reach, naturally heavier, vastly more experienced. Amateur and pro. I think Jake Paul had 1 or 2 amateur fights in Misfits. I'm not sure it was called Misfits then, but you know what I mean, against other influencers. That's it. And he's had a bunch of pro fights against journeyman, old MMA guys and other influencers. And of course, he lost to an influencer in Tommy Fury. The idea that he would beat Anthony Joshua, that would be, to me, even as diminished as AJ is, the biggest upset I've ever seen in boxing if Jake Paul were to beat Anthony Joshua. That would blow my mind. I don't see it at all. Okay, now, is Jake Paul even serious? Because in the past, he's called out the likes of Canelo, for example. Some people say he was just clout chasing, calling out Canelo. Is he clout chasing, calling out Anthony Joshua too? Or is he that deluded that he thinks he can legitimately win the fight? Now, the reason that this fight is, I think, unlikely, very unlikely, but I guess possible, is because in an interview with Eddie Hearn, he said that he's spoken to AJ just hypothetically about whether he would fight Jake Paul, and AJ indicated that if they paid him enough money, he would. So will Netflix, because surely they're going to be the ones who stump up the money, and presumably it would be on Netflix, would they be willing to pay for that fight? Because the Mike Tyson-Jake Paul fight was a complete circus. A lot of casuals felt like they'd been duped. Would they be able to sell this one? Would the casuals be cautious this time and not buy into it, given what happened with the Jake Paul-Mike Tyson fight? I can tell you that, in my view, yes, it would be a circus, but not for the reasons that the casuals may think. They might think that Jake Paul's going to go in there and do to Anthony Joshua what he did to Mike Tyson, or worse, maybe blast AJ out in a couple rounds. It's far more likely to be the other way around. Anthony Joshua blasting Jake Paul out in a couple of rounds, okay? Or toying with him for a few rounds and then taking him out whenever he wants to. It's not a competitive fight. It's a silly fight, but if they want to pay AJ that amount of money, I mean, he's washed up anyway. He's not going to beat any world-level heavyweights at this stage. So could we really blame him for fighting Jake Paul if he can't get a Tyson Fury fight, or he can't get a fight against maybe Wilder or one of his contemporaries, and he's not going to fight anybody else? Fighting a Jake Paul for a load of money on Netflix? I shrug my shoulders. You know, it's a farce, it's a joke, it's a circus. But when a fighter's career is over anyway, I can't really begrudge them. So yeah, that's my take on this potential, apparently, Anthony Joshua Jake Paul fight. I don't think it will happen, but if it were to happen, Anthony Joshua wins easily. I mean, it would be one of the easiest victories of his whole career. Jake Paul would literally be in survival mode from the time when the first jab lands. That's what it would be. If the unthinkable happened and Jake Paul won, as I said a few moments ago, that would, to me, be the biggest upset in boxing history. By far, even though AJ's not a champion anymore and he's washed up, the gulf in ability, in size, in experience, etc., etc. You know, AJ's not a 60-year-old man like Mike Tyson. He's only about, 34, 35. I mean, he, even now, will be sparring people many, many levels above Jake Paul. Much bigger and better than Jake Paul.